It doesn't stop him from doing what he does. Never lose sight of him. We do this all the time. Whatever you want to call it. If you just got up and went to the phone, that is just it. That's exactly what it is. That's what I'm talking about. And if it doesn't depend on us, if it's reliant on God's sovereignty, which is beautiful. God's sovereignty is spiritual. His authority is in the spirit. Whether a person is consciously doing what God asks, God, in His authority, has established the spiritual authorities. And whoever is over you, they are a spiritual authority. They are a minister of God. And that means that if you submit to them, you will have good, you will have reward. What I mean by that is that the reward will come to you in the form of understanding God and knowing Him. This is a real reward. This is a real reward, and this is something that I trade the world for. Having a reward from God, having His voice heard by my spirit and outworked in various ways. This is why it's number one. I put these in all sorts of order, but this is number one. This is the number one that I put down. Shifting our focus. That literally means repenting, turning from what our eyes focus on and focusing on God's sovereignty. And this idea I'm going to unpack more. Number two, we're to be a people radically aware of the zeal of the heart of God in Jesus and His love for us, motivating us because we find out that all we need to do is pursue Him. Because this is it, folks. John chapter 2. He enters his father's house and he sees money changers, and he sees people selling oxen and donkeys and doves and sheep in the temple courts. And he sits down for an hour and he braids a whip. And then he gets up and he overturns the tables of the money changers, and he gets rid with this whip everyone that is selling. And he says, "My Father's house will not be a house of trade." Now, I think if you read this, it says something about the Passover, which is significant, because the Passover was the time when the lamb was sacrificed for the sins of the people. And so here John links the Lamb of God with zeal for the Father's house. He personally went to the cross for you. He personally, the highest authority, came to earth and he was a servant, which means that he was the lowest of the low. He became a servant. This is the level of servitude which he went to. He died upon a cross, willingly, in obedience. He was crucified for you, personally. And you hear this cry as he's thinking of these very things. God, I'm not going to allow your house to be used as a place for profit and a place where your name is blasphemed. I'm going to clear out this temple, and the glory of God is going to come into this temple, which is you. You are his temple. It says at the end of the passage, but the temple that he spoke of was his body. He would raise up his body in 3 days. And then they would know that he is the one. That's number 2. Being a people radically aware of the zeal of the heart of God and his love for us, motivating us, because we find out that all we need to do is pursue him. Yes. Number 3. We live differently, not out of a sense of obligation, where we read the scriptures and it says things like, go be tender-hearted, be subservient, be respectful, suffer for what is right. Not out of a sense of obligation, but living differently by recognizing God's sovereignty and giving you freedom from wrath and condemnation. In addition to making you a child of God, you are no longer under the wrath of God. And you're no longer under condemnation. It says in John 3 that whoever believes in me will not be condemned. And it also says at the end of the chapter, if anyone does not believe in me, the wrath of God abides on him. And I would suggest that the wrath of God that abides is forever and ever. It doesn't leave. This is the this kind of wrath is the wrath where it says, I am very aware of everything that you do. And if you don't, and I am the only way that you are going to be freed from this. I am the only way. This should terrify you, because the wrath of God is very real. It is very real to anyone that has not believed in Jesus. Whether they're rich or poor, whether they're king or slave, whether they're Jew or Gentile, whether they are from the farthest parts of the earth, anywhere, this abides on people, and it will not go until they know Jesus. But this means that because you've been saved through it, you can live in freedom. You can live in absolute freedom, because that no longer exists for you. You're no longer condemned. No one can say that you haven't added up. You have a perfect record. You are righteous in his sight if you believe in him. All through John it says, if you believe in him. If you receive him, he gives you the right to be the children of God, not born of flesh or of blood or of man's will or a husband's desire, but born of God. Basically meaning God, he was the one that started it. God said, I want you so bad, I want you completely, I want you in everything, I want you, This is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to send my own son in the likeness of you, and I'm going to make him a spectacle to you, because he is my son. He is up here, the highest of the high, but he is going to come down low, and he is going to serve even the servant. He is going to be so low that there is no one below him. And he is going to die upon a cross, and he is going to shed his blood for you, so that you would be forgiven, so that you would be healed of all disease, so that you would be redeemed and brought into his kingdom, so that you would be, so that you would have the love of God crown you. Yeah, all of these things. Number 3, living differently by recognizing God's sovereignty and giving you freedom to turn from wrath and condemnation. Also, that means that God, like I've already shared, God is the one that gives you freedom. He's also, if you put it a different way, he's the one that offers you the chance to have freedom. So you don't choose freedom by yourself. You choose freedom because he's given you the invitation to have freedom. This is the beauty of God's sovereignty. Now, number 4 is a lead-in from here, because if everything is in God's sovereignty, then it changes the way that we see authorities. Number 4, encouragement of any authority and radical obedience to that authority. Now, I have many examples that I can share. One off the top of my head is I was at a weekend in Hanmer one time, and God spoke to me and said and showed me that our leader had been placed over us for a blessing, because as long as he was over us, I would know that the thing that God wanted to achieve in me, I would be able to do, because here was a place to grow, and here was a place to